All right, guys, what's going on? So, I want to talk about a theory that I have somewhat come up with. Not necessarily a theory, but still along the lines of like finance and debt and how pretty much the entire world is in debt. But I'm going to title this video Debt is the New Slavery, right? And I think I may have like talked about this before or even made a video about this before. But I want to talk about what I mean by saying debt is the new slavery, right? So, as a young person, the way I'm starting to realize how this entire world works and why like pretty all the misery in the world, all of the despair that people like go through, the reason that most people have miserable lives is because most people are broke, right? And it's like, okay, starting off with most people are broke, which is true. And the reason I'm saying that is because the reason, in my opinion, that most people are broke in this country and in the, I guess, the world in general, but let's just keep it to America. The reason that most people in America are broke as adults is because they have one, it's probably two reasons. They have not a good job, so they have pretty low income, and two, they have debt, right? And when I say debt is a new slavery, it really has me thinking, like, why is it so hard for most people to escape the trap of poverty, right? I grew up in what you would consider the hood, right? And I was able to go to school luckily and like get a job where I don't really have to like worry about, you know, making a living for myself, etc. And I was able to get a full ride scholarship. So I'm able to like utilize my income in a way where most people are not. And that really has made me realize that the reason most people really aren't able to do much, save up for a house, on top of how inflated our dollar has become in this country, it's simply because a lot of people carry so much debt, consumer debt specifically, that it makes it really hard for them to save their money. And, I think the main form that young people probably are struggling with right now is student loans. Because, like I said, I was blessed enough to not have to go into student loan debt to go to school. But there are a lot of people who have student loans. And there is so many people who don't even pay on their student loans now. And I'm not really sure what young people are going to do, because if we're being realistic, what percentage of people do you guys think, if you're watching this, do you think is going to really pay back all of their student loans? Like, what percentage of people under the age of 30 that have student loans are really going to pay them shits back or lows back? Excuse my language. I'm not sure it's a lot, because that's just not something that young people, one, are really interested in doing from what it looks like to me. And then two, we can't even afford to do that. Like, young people just aren't making enough money to do so, right? So that's pretty much why I want to say debt is the new slavery. And then I also want to relate it to how pretty much our entire, like I just said, our entire dollar is being inflated away. Like, it's also not fair to young people. Like, it really bothers me, because if you realize how this economy works, bro, you really start to get mad. Like, yo, the government just prints money, right? They have the ability to just print money at the snap of a finger. Um, and government officials just do as they please. They think their money printing schemes are helping the country, right? And in some instances, whatever programs they have, I'm sure some of them can be beneficial. But when you really think about how much money that they print, like, the dollar is just gonna continuously be inflated, and then our buying power as young people is just going to continuously go away. So they're raising the prices of pretty much everything, right? Wow, they're damn near. Let me stop. I'm not gonna say damn near. They're basically paying us like the same amount of money every year. You might get like a 2% raise, or whatever. Let's say we get raises, but I don't feel like the raises that we get are keeping up with inflation in any sense. And as a result, it just makes it even harder for young people to get ahead. Like, on top of the fact that most young people have debt, most of us have student loan debt, most of us have a car loan, most of us have like credit card debt. So we have all of these forms of debt that we're trying to manage and pay off. And then on top of that, the dollars that we are acquiring to pay off these debts are slowly getting eroded away because of inflation. So over the course of 10 years, you know, it makes it harder. I mean, I guess in theory, inflation sort of makes it easier for you to pay your debt because the dollars are worth less. But you guys get what I'm saying. Like, the entire system is just geared towards keeping you trapped in a loop of working, giving a share of your resources that you work for to somebody else who you owe in the form of debt, and you fall into the trap at 18 with the student loans. You go to school, you go to college when you're 18 years old, basically, right? And you don't even know what you want to go to school for most of the time. You don't even really know like you get just most people, if you're a first generation college student, you get pressured into going to school. So your mom or your dad is telling you, hey man, you gotta go to school. You know, like you don't even really know what you're doing half the time. So then you end up going to school. You take out all these student loans, and at the end of the day, it's on you to pay it back. But it's like a messed up system, I feel like, because not only are we pushing to go into school and we're not really taught, like, especially if you come from like a underprivileged community, you know what I mean? You're not really taught like the ins and outs of how the college education system works. But then it costs so much money, so you have to go into massive amounts of debt to do so. So then you're basically stuck making payments every month. Like, I'm really trying to boil it down for you. I'm really trying to reiterate this point because when you really look at it, it's so simple. The money you get, right, as a human being, you wake up and you go to work, right? If you make so much money, you make X amount of money, you have to pay X amount of money or Y. Let's say you make X, you have to pay Y to survive. So we all have our basic living expenses, rent, food, utilities, basic things that you have to pay for as a human being, right? So by default, you only have so much of your income left over, no matter who you are. That it doesn't matter how much you make, right? Now, of course, if you have a better job, then you're probably going to be better off, even if you have debt, because you can afford to make payments on these things, right? But let's just use the example of a normal person who makes $50,000 a year in this economy. If you have obligations that are beyond your normal life expenses that I just mentioned, like the rent, utilities, food, car, whatever, like not car notes, but insurance, blah, blah, blah. And you have to pay like credit card debt, student loan debt, a car loan. If you add these one or two obligations to the side over the course of your lifetime, that strains your income to the point where it makes it really hard for you to save. And I feel like that I'm trying to boil it down and make it sound as simple as possible because I don't even think the system is so complicated to where we can't understand it and we can't combat it. Because all it takes is for you to not have that credit card. All it takes is for you to not have that car loan that you got when you were young, or that credit card or that student loan that you got when you were young. And if you can just manage to just keep your expenses to what you need as a human being, your food, utilities, blah, 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 you can seriously try to at least save some money. Because again, the point I was making earlier is how the dollar is being inflated away, right? So our buying power as young people, excuse me, is already being cooked, right? So the only way to combat the fact that our dollar is being fried and we're already at like the bottom in terms of the buying power, etc., is you have to try to minimize the amount of debt that you have as a young person so you can maximize your income, right? That's why I like to say sometimes it doesn't necessarily matter how much money you make, because if you just have a nice full-time job, if you are a young man watching this video, right, you can work 40 hours a week at McDonald's, bro. I swear to God, like let's just say you graduate from high school with zero debt and you go work at McDonald's full time and you get some roommates or something. You might not make a lot of money. You might not be balling necessarily, but if you really just try to live your life on some intentional, strategic finance thinking type stuff and like live within your means, over the course of like 5 years, you might be able to save more money than somebody who makes like 3 times of what you make, but they have way more debt. They have a car loan, they have like student loans, etc. So it's really about how you manage your money, bro. And like, we don't understand that. We are not taught this. We want to all live lavish lifestyles and like go into debt for cars that we don't need. And we basically need a car to survive, right? Cars are almost a necessity. So I'm not going to say, I'm almost at the point of saying car loans, like, what are you going to do? Like, it's really, unless you live in New York City or some city with a great transit system, it is hard to get by without a vehicle, right? But again, if you are taught this at a young age, I guess this is why I'm trying to make these videos for anybody that can watch this and maybe learn. If you can learn this at a young age, maybe you could start working when you're young and try to save up your money and buy a car in cash. Like, I never had to buy a car with a car loan. I always pay cash. Like, I got the car I have right now. I pay. I had tried my bad. I don't know what just happened there, but like I was saying, I think I only paid like $5,500 for my vehicle, and I paid it in cash, right? And I've sort of always been finance oriented, if I'm saying that correctly, since I was around like 17, 18. So like I've had the benefit of knowing like avoiding debt can really be great for your life, bro. Like, you do not want to be on the hook and have obligations to other people, bro. You do not want to owe a credit card company every month. You do not want to owe a car loan or car dealership, whatever. You do not want to have to pay the money that you make in your pocket as a human being to other people. And I think we are so used to it, which is why even me saying is like, I don't even know if what I'm saying to people sounds like right. And that is sort of weird to me. And that's another part of the problem, I think, because it's so normalized in our society. Everybody has debt, and a lot of it. Like, it's not even like people were just like, oh, I have a car loan, 15,000, I'm trying to pay it off. Some people, yes, a lot, indeed. But there are just a lot of people in this country who just have lots of debt on top of their mortgages, like not even counting what you would consider good debt, something like an asset that appreciates in value over time. They just have a lot of car loans, credit card debt, student loans, and it's normal. Like, that's how our entire economy runs. Like, the entire dollar US system is based on debt. But I do understand how that part works. But I also think that if you as a consumer can manage your portion of the debt, you don't really have to worry about the whole American dollar being inflated away as much, basically. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Yeah, I'm recording in a different room right now. Please don't mind the living room. It's a little messy right now. But yeah, as always, it's been your boy Brandon Davis. I'm out.